The moment Ryan heard the angry shout across the store, he froze. It was the kind of voice that made people stop mid-step, sharp, accusing, and dripping with judgment. He turned his head just in time to see a store manager pointing his finger at a young woman sitting in a wheelchair, trembling and terrified. Her shaking hands gripped the edge of her seat, her wide eyes darting between the crowd and the furious man towering over her. In her lap lay a small scarf, the stolen item. But even from across the store, Ryan could tell something wasn't right. If this is the kind of kindness you believe the world needs more of, make sure to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel for more heart-touching stories about compassion, second chances, and the power of humanity. Ryan adjusted his little daughter Emma's hand in his own and stepped closer. As a single dad, he knew what fear looked like, the kind that comes from being misunderstood, from having no one believe your side of the story. He had lived through it. After losing his wife in an accident 2 years ago, he'd been raising Emma on his own, working double shifts as a mechanic and trying to stay afloat. He didn't have much, but he had empathy, and right now, every bit of it burned in his chest. The store manager's voice echoed. "You think you can steal from us just because you're in a wheelchair? I saw you tuck that scarf into your lap." His tone was full of disgust, and the watching crowd did nothing but stare. Some even lifted their phones, ready to record a moment of public humiliation. Ryan's jaw tightened. He walked forward, his daughter clutching his arm. "That's enough," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd shifted, and the manager's glare snapped toward him. Ryan stood his ground, his leather jacket creasing as he placed a protective hand on the wheelchair's handle. "You're making a mistake. I saw her roll in here. She didn't hide anything. The scarf must have fallen from the counter." The manager sneered. "And who are you?" "Her lawyer." Ryan shook his head. "Just someone who knows what injustice looks like." He bent down slightly to meet the girl's eyes. Her name tag, faint and bent, read Hannah. Tears glistened at the corners of her eyes, and she looked down, too ashamed to speak. Her voice finally broke through, small and shaking. I didn't take it. I was just looking at it, and it slipped." Ryan looked around at the crowd. Everyone's watching, recording, judging. But has anyone asked what really happened? His voice cut through the whispers. The silence that followed was deafening. The manager huffed, muttering something under his breath, but Ryan didn't move. Instead, he took out his wallet, pulled out a few bills, and placed them on the counter. "Here, for the scarf. Now apologize." The manager's face turned red. "You can't just," I said, "apologize." Ryan's tone was calm, but the authority in it made even the bystanders flinch. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Then the manager backed down, muttering something that vaguely resembled an apology before storming away. Ryan turned back to Hannah. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, her lips trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. Her eyes flickered to Emma, who smiled shyly and handed her a small candy from her pocket. For the first time, Hannah smiled too. Small, fragile, but real. Over the next few minutes, as the crowd dispersed, Ryan learned that Hannah had recently moved into the neighborhood after a terrible accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. She was living alone in a tiny rented apartment and struggling to adjust to life in a wheelchair. No family nearby, no friends, no support. Her clothes were plain, her hands rough, her face tired. But there was something about her that drew Ryan in. Maybe it was her quiet strength, the way she tried to hold herself together despite the humiliation she'd just faced. Ryan helped her gather her things, and before leaving, he asked, "Do you have a way home?" She hesitated, embarrassed. "The wheelchair taxi app. It's been glitching. I might have to wait a while." Ryan looked down at Emma, who was already tugging at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we drop her home?" And just like that, Hannah became part of their lives. Days turned into weeks. Ryan started checking in on her, sometimes bringing groceries or fixing her wheelchair when the wheels jammed. Emma adored her. She'd bring drawings and spend afternoons chatting away while Hannah listened, her eyes lighting up in ways they hadn't in months. Slowly, Ryan began to see the woman behind the wheelchair, witty, intelligent, and kind-hearted. But beneath her smiles, there was pain. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Hannah confessed the truth. "I wasn't always poor," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I come from a wealthy family, one of the richest in the city. But after the accident, I couldn't face them. I felt like a burden. My father, he didn't understand. He wanted me to go through endless surgeries, treatments, publicity, as if my pain was a project to fix. I just wanted peace. Ryan listened quietly. He didn't know what to say, so he said the only thing that mattered. You're not broken, Hannah. You're brave. His words hit her harder than he realized. Over the next few months, they grew close. Ryan would take Emma and Hannah out to the park, pushing her wheelchair, while Emma ran ahead laughing. There was laughter again in their lives, laughter that had been missing since Ryan's wife died. He found himself looking forward to their evenings together, the way Hannah's eyes crinkled when she smiled, the warmth in her presence. But fate had more in store. One afternoon, as Ryan arrived at Hannah's apartment, he found a sleek black car parked outside, a luxury vehicle that looked out of place in the rundown neighborhood. Standing beside it was an older man in a tailored suit, his face stern, his eyes filled with both relief and fury. "Who are you?" Ryan asked, instinctively stepping between him and Hannah. The man's gaze softened when he saw her. "Hannah, sweetheart." His voice cracked. "I've been searching for you for months." Ryan looked from the man to Hannah. Her lips quivered. "Dad." Her father's name was Henry Langston, a billionaire businessman, owner of one of the city's largest corporations. The revelation hit Ryan like a wave. The poor girl he'd stood up for in the store, the one he'd thought was alone and struggling, was actually the daughter of a man whose face appeared on magazine covers. Henry's eyes filled with tears as he knelt beside his daughter. "When you disappeared after the accident, I thought I'd lost you forever. I didn't care about the company, the media. I just wanted you back." Hannah's tears fell freely. "I didn't think you'd understand, Dad. I thought you'd be ashamed of me." "Never," he said, his voice breaking. "You're my daughter. You're everything." Ryan stepped back quietly, realizing this was a reunion long overdue. But before he could slip away, Henry turned to him. "You're the man who's been helping her?" Ryan nodded humbly. "Just doing what anyone should." Henry's gaze softened. "No, not everyone would. You saw her for who she is, not what she's lost. For that, I owe you more than I can say." From that day on, Ryan's life began to change too. Henry offered to help him open his own auto repair shop, something Ryan had always dreamed of but never had the means to do. But more than the financial help, it was the bond that grew between all of them that changed everything. Hannah began therapy and started walking short distances with support. Emma found in her a friend and a role model. And Ryan, once a broken, struggling single dad, found something he thought he'd never have again: a family. Months later, in a cozy garden filled with fairy lights, Hannah rolled toward Ryan, who was teaching Emma how to fix her bike chain. She smiled at the sight, her heart full. When Ryan looked up, their eyes met, and in that silent exchange, everything was understood. The man who once stood up for a stranger in a store had unknowingly stood up for his future.